What's up, boys and girls? Today we are going to cover a little bit about Serqet. I keep getting a lot of questions asking basically how do you play here, asking what the counter matchups are. I've gone over builds. I have talked a little bit in stream and in other videos about how you really do her ability rotation and also her positioning from early, mid to late. But I'm really going to try to cover more and be very specific here. To start off with, if you're looking for a build, you need to go check out my top 5 junglers video. It's one of my last 3 videos. Serqet is in there. She's actually the second god I talk about, and the build is in there. It's that simple. Next off, I'm going to talk about counter matchups. Serqet really doesn't have a ton of counter matchups. You can pick her first pick and usually be okay. There are some gods you want to watch out for. The number one god you really need to watch out for is a good Weak3n player. Weak3n has very similar mobility, has an immunity frame, and has an ult that counters Serqet's leap. That being said, that ult is what truly hard counters Serqet. If you can really just avoid getting caught in the ult, you'll probably be good. But that's the main thing you have to worry about in Weak3n. Damage is kind of similar. Serqet can out-damage an Weak3n if the Serqet catches the Weak3n. The Weak3n can out-damage a Serqet if this Weak3n catches the Serqet out of position. It just goes hand in hand. That's one thing you have to watch out for. The next god that is a semi-hard counter is Thor. I know you're going to think, well, Serqet's 2 can cancel Thor's spin, and then you win, right? No, that's not how it works. Thor counters Serqet because of the ability to poke while also controlling Serqet. Thor can stun out your invis on your 3, number 1. So he can completely cancel your 3 if he times it right. The next problem is the poke you get with the hammer and the throw on Serqet. Serqet doesn't usually build defense, especially not for the first 20 minutes. So a Thor will do around 60% of a Serqet's health if they're on par at, say, 15 minutes. You'll lose 60% of your health just with a hammer throw. If a Thor is good enough to do that, which a lot of the top level players are, it can be rough for you because if you're poked out all the time, you can't start a fight, you can't go into a fight, and you can get caught out very easily. Thor can also cancel your initiations. If you blink in and try to 2-1 somebody, if you get your 2 off and a Thor stuns you, you're probably not going to get your 1 off, you're probably going to get poked down. He can also cancel your 1. If you throw your 1 out and the Thor stuns, your 1's canceled. So it's just the ability to control you is what the hard counter is. It's not necessarily the one-on-one matchup. In no way is it really the one-on-one matchup. It's kind of the team fight presence or the 2v2-esque where if Thor gets off his stun and hammer and then the other person hits you with any ability, you need to leave or you need to get out, you got to beads, you got to do whatever. So being on par with Serqet against a Thor is not the best situation. If you can get ahead of a Thor, you're probably going to be good throughout the whole game. The next matchups are outside of the jungle. All the other junglers really don't hard counter Serqet in any way. Hunbat's with good positioning and good use of ult can be frustrating, but even then he's nowhere near a hard counter. The next really good hard counters in my opinion are Agni. I say Agni simply because he has a dash that does a ton of damage. You're going to eat the dash if you try to initiate on an Agni, if the Agni's any good. The Agni can stun you from range, can control you, while also putting out that immense damage I was talking about from the dash, from the bombs, from the flame wave. It's just too much for a squishy Serqet to really handle a good, Agni player is impossible. The second counter matchup, in my opinion, is going to be Kukulkan. Kukulkan's not played too often, so it's not something you have to worry about that much. But a Kukulkan player is going to be able to get off a full rotation of damage on you. You can blink and 2 and whatever and ult. Second you ult to Kukulkan, that Kukulkan's going to beads and ult himself. And you're going to eat a full 1500 damage ult late game. While he might die, you're definitely going to die. So the one-on-one trade, at the risk of him also hitting someone else with his ult, isn't really a good trade. If you can catch him out without beads, it's not really a hard matchup. But just in a sense of everyone's full build or everyone's half build and they have abilities up and they have beads up, Kukulkan can do very well against Serqet. The final counter matchups, in my opinion, are going to be Guardians. We're looking at Geb is the first one I'm going to mention because he's not a hard counter. It's just the fact that you don't crit Geb for full damage. He also has a shield which saves his teammates. He has a decent amount of control with his knockup, which can cancel your 3 out, and his ult, which can also, like I said, cancel your 3 out. It's just a lot of control. The other Guardians, while they might have stuns or interrupts, my bad guys, might have stuns or interrupts, are really going to not have the same effect as a Geb just because of his all-around team fight presence. So he's not just relevant in the 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, he's relevant in any team fight you're in. The second counter matchup is a very, very hard counter matchup, that's Ares. If you watch Europe, they play a lot of Ares, and when they play against the Serqet, they will focus the Serqet. As soon as you hit them with chains, you can't dash on Serqet, so that will make doing any kind of escape or full damage rotation nearly impossible. Ares also has an ult, fairly tanky god, can 1v1 a Serqet without beats. It happens, it's happened to me, I've seen it, it's not like uncommon. So the gods for you to really watch out for are going to be Weak3n, Thor, Agni, and Ares. And then the next tier down, which aren't completely hard matchups, counter matchups, but they are very hard to deal with, are going to be Kukulkan and Geb. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about positioning a little bit. I really don't want to go into gameplay because in gameplay it's really hard for me to break down exactly what I'm doing to what you should be doing because everything's processing in my head. It's not just like this is what I'm always going to do, so I can't compare my gameplay to how I should really teach you. I can say that with Serqet, you should buy Blink and Beads right after you buy Boots. That's because your positioning now is less important with Blink. You have the ability to blink in, land your 2 on somebody, 1 them, ult them, and then auto them, and if there's any damage from any other source of any god on your team, any tower damage, anything, that person will die. As long as you get off all 3 of your abilities and your auto attack, the person will die with any extra damage. It's pretty much guaranteed unless they're a full tank god. So let's go back to positioning. The blink allows you to be just about anywhere to get into a fight. So you could be around the back of a fight, you could be at mid harpies and blink into the mid lane and kill mid laner. There's a lot less positioning that is important. Now after about 15 minutes, that blink initiation becomes less valuable because you will instantly die if there's any form of control in their team. So if you blink into 3 or 4 people, even if you instantly beads a stun or whatever, you're either going to take half your health and have to escape, or you're going to die. It's very common. You're a squishy god. People know how to react to blink now because it's not as fresh. It's not, every team has 4 blinks now. Like, everyone's used to it. It's just the way it is. So there's less surprise after you get past that 15, 20, 25 minute mark. It's just, you're so squishy, the surprise doesn't matter. So late game or mid to late game, you really have to watch about how you choose your fights. If you can find a 1v1 within a team fight, take it. You're probably going to win. Unless you position horribly or you don't have beads and they do or whatever. If there's no real, if it's a really tight fight, like a 5v5, let your team go in and watch abilities get used. If you see chains get thrown out from an Ares, you see a whirlpool go down from Poseidon, wait for those to dissipate, to disappear, and then go into the fight. Because that means they're more than likely only going to have autos. Maybe a couple gods save their abilities, but in the lower tier of play, they really won't save their abilities. Most abilities will be down. So if you say your Sylvanas blinks in and ults, and then you see 4 abilities come out, wait 3 seconds, and then go into the fight. They're not going to be able to control you. They're not going to be able to out-damage you. And you're really safe in a fact that you can blink in, you can do your rotation, and you can just hop out with your 3. And then you can go right back in and do it again. But that next initiation, they'll probably have abilities up. So it's just kind of picking and choosing when you should fight. You do not want to be the front line at all. You do not want to be the first one into a fight after 15 minutes. You do not want to go in alone if your team is retreating, even if, like I said, they use all their abilities and the fight is kind of slowing down. If your team's backing off, just back off with them. It's okay. You don't, just because you didn't get into a fight doesn't mean you lost them the game. So really pay attention to your positioning. Really pay attention to your targeting. Don't go on tanks, and just try to use your head. I know it sounds like it sounds easy. I know it's hard. I've been there. I've had to learn all this stuff. But think in your head, does this person have an ability up? Will this ability kill me? If I go on this person, is the other person going to turn around and attack me? You really just have to think of what happens next. If you do this, what are they going to do? If you can kind of understand the god enough to think to that point, you will be able to control a game up until Masters level play. Even in Masters ranked, I can do that. Well, I could do that before as a pro player. So I just want you guys to understand that there is multiple levels of thought. Once you get to one step, like I said, once you know to blink in and who to fight, then you're thinking on what happens next. So make sure those thought processes begin to go through your head. and this is going to apply to every jungle. But I just figure on Serqet, everyone says they have so much trouble in this OP god. Usually that's why, is you're just kind of trying to do the I'm OP, I'm all in type crap. It doesn't work. Try going through this thought process that I kind of broke down. Sure, there's going to be more to it, but if you can just go through those 3 steps or whatever I mentioned, you will be okay. If you have any questions at all, put them in the comments. I'm doing my best to reply. I've been putting up a lot of videos, and I've been having a lot of comments to reply to. So if I miss it, go ahead and make sure you look and make sure I didn't reply to that same question to someone else. Because if there's a question 5 times, I'm going to answer 1. And I'm going to just go ahead and let you guys read through. If you guys have any requests for gods, put them in the comments. I will do this for any gods you guys need. If you guys could subscribe to my channel, helps a lot. I really just I'm putting in as much work as I can to help you guys, and I really want to see my YouTube grow as much as possible. I also stream every night at 10 p.m. East at twitch.tv/Weak3n. The link to that will be below this video. Check that out too. And yeah, I will see you guys hopefully later this week with another guide.
Oh, this you crazy mother.